How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I'm so excited and like kind of awestruck that I get to chat with you today.
Oh, well, I'm excited too. Thanks for having me.
So I know we have limited time, so I want to get right into my questions. Um,
Yeah.
so recently, during actually, it was the Next Level virtual event, you were talking so much about the, be, do, have model. And let me just say that I love how much you pull in like the whole aspect of us, right? Instead
Mm,
of always having to, feel like we're doing all the time. I know as an entrepreneur myself, as a mom myself, right? It's like there's
mm,
always so many to do's to do in our life. And for those that, have their own business, or for those that are, thinking about having their own business, because I know this last year, has been, I think, probably brought about a lot of shift and change for a
yeah.
lot of people, right? Losing their job or
Mhm.
just, wanting to do and create their own thing. But we get stuck in that rat race, especially I feel like in the beginning of like, we got to do all these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's getting worse, right? Like
Oh,
every
absolutely.
time
We're
you go on
bombarded.
social media, oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's someone going, look at me, look at all the things I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that can be overwhelming. I want to say too, like if anyone starting in business, it's very normal and natural to feel overwhelmed. Like we think it's like we're alone in it. Like something's wrong with me because I feel overwhelmed. And it's like, no, everyone feels that. Oh, trust me, everyone feels that. And it's kind of like that now analogy or metaphor of when you fall off the horse, you know, we already know what we got to do. We got to get back on. But most people make so much about their life about how to avoid falling off the horse. And that's a much more like playing not to lose mindset. It's much more of a survival mindset. Whereas we want to come from that presupposition, you're going to fall off the horse, whether it's a bad day, a bad moment, a bad year, whatever, you're going to fall off the horse. And that's the indicator that you're like really in the game. And that's awesome. Uh, the real thing and what I really want to help people with is like, how do you get back on? And how do you get back on faster next time? Um, because I've been doing this a long time, running my business a long time. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's pushed me more than, oh my god, and anything. And the amount of mistakes I've made and failures and setbacks and all that type of stuff. And you keep going and you keep growing, and that's where you learn. Something I learned a long time ago is that pain is a blessing. It doesn't seem like it in the moment, but it's in the big problems that we go through in our lives, especially in our business, that we're forced to pay attention to what there is to learn from, or what this is teaching us, or how we can grow. So yeah, we can talk about be do have. You want to talk about that?
Sure. Well, I mean, there's so many things I want to talk about. You brought up so many good points just right there that I'd like to add something too, because I talk about
Mm,
all the time, right? Like we can learn so much from the pain and the suffering because they teach a lot about health and wellness. And we have the physical pain, and I know you've talked about this before. Like, oh, you're having back pain. Why are we actually having
mm,
pain, right? Different things.
yeah.
So really recognizing the failures or the pain or the struggle along the way as like, what are we learning from this versus, oh, this sucks. I mean, it might suck in the moment, right? Like we got to embrace
Right.
a little bit of that, but the getting back on and moving forward. So
Well, the back pain one was a real interesting one because that was I read an amazing book, The Great Pain Deception by Steve Ozanich, and that book changed my life because it really demonstrated to me the mind body connection that we all have. And just some things I had to work through. But I had chronic back pain, and it was like 2 or 3 times a week, every week, maybe about twice a week, for about 2 days each. So you'd have a few days of like, oh, okay, I think I'm feeling better. Where like my whole back would just you know tighten up, and I didn't know. And it was just like, oh, this is your life now. And you're like in your late 20s, early 30s. It's like, that's so weird. I read that book and gone. Never had it again. People don't believe me when I say it. And it's like, well, what did you do? Right? It's going back to that. What did you do? What did he have you do in the book? I'm like, I just read the book. That's it. That was it. There wasn't even an exercise in the book. But it's about an understanding, it's about awareness. And so there's a lot of like internal doing that people don't see. And there's that great metaphor of the iceberg. And I think that's more relevant today with social media and everything than ever before. So you follow somebody who has a business and you want a business like that, or you want to do what they're doing. We have to understand that it's like this metaphor of the iceberg where there's what you see in the 3D with your eyes. And that's curated. People are going to show you what they want you to see. And we think that's the whole picture. And we don't understand what's happening beneath the surface of the iceberg or what has happened. It's just like when you go to Broadway and see a musical. I lived in New York. I loved going to musicals. I had a blast doing that. And you get all dressed up, go to dinner, and go see a show. And there's not too many places like in the world you get to do that. So it's so awesome. And you have to, I would sit there, you'd imagine like what was happening behind the scenes when a character would go off stage, you know, or how many nights, weeks, months were they rehearsing and practicing? And I wonder if there was like drama between them and, you know, all this stuff you don't see. And when I started my business, I was just looking at the surface of the iceberg. And so, okay, I see what they're doing. I see what he's doing. I see what she's doing. I do that. And it wasn't working. And I struggled for a really, really long time. Really, really long. I like to brag about how long I struggled. So 4.5 years of just at it. I had to move back home with my parents. I was broke. It was pathetic. I was angry. I was frustrated, and you know, gave up, quit like every other week. You know, like I'm done with this. You know, it's like, all right, I'm gonna try it again. And I didn't understand that because I was actually like a really hard worker. I adopt the workaholic mindset from my father, who worked really hard. And I would do 14-hour days. In fact, I got addicted to Adderall. That stuff is no bueno. That's like legal speed. I mean, I would wake up in the morning and pop 20 milligrams of that because it was all in like good intention. My sister, what's that?
I said, oh my goodness.
Oh, I know.
Sir,
No. Like I was overweight, right? So I was at my heaviest, I was 220 pounds. I'm about 6 foot. And I started popping this Adderall because my sister had ADHD or got diagnosed with it. And she was given the Adderall, which I'm so glad she's off of that now too. But my mom was just like, oh, well, why don't you're working so hard? Why don't you just take one? Just like so nice and naive about it. I was like, okay. And I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. Everything I'm doing is so interesting. And I would wake up and pop these pills and sit in front of that computer trying to start a business. So passionate. I don't understand. I had that burning desire. Nappy Hill says that. I had the drive. I was hungry. And I was willing to do it. You know, Tony Robbins, take massive action. I was doing all that. And I had absolutely nothing to show for it. And then, of course, you're getting addicted to Adderall. And I lost like all my friends and all that weight. I went from 220 pounds down to 145. That sounds like a healthy weight loss regimen. That was over like a year or something. But that's a lot. I looked like a skeleton with bug eyes. And you just didn't eat anymore. You didn't go out anymore. And I was doing 14-hour days in front of the computer. Nothing. There was this moment that, you know, everyone has that moment. Maybe it's that rock bottom moment for you, that pivotal moment where things change. Maybe you haven't gotten there. Maybe things have to get a little worse for you before you get there, right? Oh, no, not you. Your listeners, like someone listening, like someone's like, oh, I haven't had that pivotal moment yet. It's like, well, then it's coming. It's you know, because we all have. It's like that's why we love stories because we see ourselves in them and we're writing our own story. We're in the middle of a story. You're the protagonist. I think you're also the antagonist of your own story, and you're the reader. Sometimes we forget which one we really are. And of course, most importantly, you're the writer of your story. And I had that moment. I can't remember what happened, but I was very frustrated, and something happened, like something I was working on didn't save, and smashed my computer. Key broke and everything. I was so angry. I had a lot of anger, frustration. It wasn't working. I was doing all the doings. I was doing. Nothing broke. I mean, a CPA laughed at me because I tried to hire him, and he's like, "You're not even making $10,000 a year." Pathetic. And I felt pathetic. And I remember going outside because I just get out of that energy, and I'm ready to like scream and just yell. And I didn't because, neighbors would probably call the cops or something. I just remember looking up at the stars and having that moment of like, well, who even cares if I yell? The stars don't. What's the difference? You just kind of feel like this destitute, like, I don't know, I kind of had this like nihilistic, very just apathetic, depressing moment in my life. And then the next thought came in. And sometimes like it's that one thought that, like if you just kind of hold on to it for a little bit, grows. And it was such a simple thought. I didn't have to reach far for it. It was like right there. I said, well, at least one day this will make a great story. And that just kind of created this moment. And that was the turning point, because as soon as that thought entered into my mind, the next one was right there, which was like, I can actually see myself telling this story on a stage or something. I don't know, maybe on a stage, maybe on a podcast one day or something. And then the next thought came in, and it was like, oh, well, if I'm going to tell this story one day, then that means eventually I'll have reached my goals and accomplished what I set out to accomplish. Oh, which means like this is going to work. And I realized how much of what I was doing was operating from a fear or a frame that I think a lot of people are operating from when they go out to do something like start a business, which is, what if this doesn't work? What if I'm doing it wrong? What if this is all for nothing? What if this is a waste of time? And that's driving them in the background. That's actually that voice, like they're just whispering in their ear with everything they're doing. What if this doesn't work? What if you're going in the wrong direction? What if you made a mistake? What if you made the wrong choice? And that's what I was doing. And the longer it wasn't working, the more it was reinforcing that and making it real. And I realized at the end of the day, I was running from so much doubt and fear. Fear is an internal response that we feel in the moment based on a relationship with an unwanted future that we actually believe is going to happen. So I was in fear because I thought the future that I was living into was, this is never going to work. And you're going to have to give up on this one day. And that was the moment, that moment of me trying to scream out at the stars. When I said, but what if it did work? And what if it could? And it was like the first time I had a little bit of belief. And there's the founder of NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, Richard Bandler, who said something very simple. He's just said, if you don't absolutely 100% believe in the outcome, you won't ever do what it takes to make it possible. And that's so true. So I was doing all the doings. I mean, I would win the Olympics for busiest person on the planet. I was like, congratulations, because I had Adderall, coffee. No, I wasn't doing both. I wasn't doing Adderall and coffee. That would have been bad. That would have been really bad. But I had nothing to show for it. And that began a journey of looking within and looking at, if I was doing all the doings, but I'm doing them out of fear, I'm doing them out of doubt. There's this great line that says, when we start talking about the be do have, which is the doing as the actions. The doing is only as good as the being doing the doing. So who was I being? And what was the energy that I was putting into those actions? How was I showing up when I was doing the things that I was doing? And I realized a lot had to shift, and it all started from within. And yeah, that's kind of the nutshell there, if that made sense.
Yes, no, it totally makes sense. And I hear you and relate to you in so many ways because I was totally the hard worker, grew up on a farm. You knew how to like
Wow.
work really hard and like having that ethic, which I think is really amazing. But
Yeah.
then you go to put that in your own business and you're like, wait, I'm doing all the things.
Hmm.
Why is it not working? Because I dealt with that in obviously the beginning years. James, I wish that you were doing what you do now when I had started
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, and I want to say something really quick there because like I
Yeah.
love hard work. I love hard work. And people think I'm adverse to it and just kind of like just like, oh, just sit on a couch and drink your latte as your business starts growing. No, I love hard work. Like I love putting but my relationship with hard work is different than most. I want to if I'm going to do something like a podcast or a new program or something like that, I'm going to put 100% of my heart into it. It's heart work. Oh,
Yeah.
it's heart work. I'm going to give it my all. Right. Um, whereas what, what is really happening with most of us, you know, like collectively, and I worked through this, I had to realize this myself, is things happen to us at a young age, you know, because we're little kiddos and everyone else is bigger than us, you know, and things start to happen as we try to make sense of the world. And sadly, tragically, so many of us make decisions at you know, at 6 years old, right, 8 years old of, you know, something's wrong with me. Maybe I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not deserving. Or, you know, we make decisions. That's what a belief is it's a decision about how the world is that we make, and we just decide it one day. Um, I've heard the definition that a belief is a thought that you continue to think. I say a belief is a thought that you no longer think. You just kind of cement it in the background. Like this is just how the way it is. And it's very important that we understand that we don't relate and experience beliefs as beliefs. That's the tricky thing about a belief. And this is getting into the be do have, because part of be do have is the beliefs or the be lives that we live from. And we experience beliefs not as beliefs. Like you don't really go, I have this silly belief. No. What we really do is we say, well, here's the way it is. That's just the way it is. Or we say, like, I'm this type of person. I always do that. Or we make predictions like, well, if I do this, then that will happen. Well, if I am successful, my parents and my family is all they're gonna change, or they're gonna treat me differently. That's a belief. No. I know, James, I know that's what's gonna happen. No, you don't. We don't know because it hasn't happened. You know, you can predict it, but it's a prediction, not a fact. And so people kind of get those all mixed up. And so we make these big decisions and really opinions about ourselves. That's what they are. They're opinions, you know. Like if you don't think you're enough, that's just your opinion. That's not a fact. But we relate to it as fact. And the trickier part is once we decide that, we also decide a strategy to compensate for that. So a lot of people decide that the way to become enough or to become worthy or to become deserving is what? To work hard and sacrifice. So it's like chasing a mirage in the desert. I mean, there was nothing there. There was no hole to fill in anyways, but we didn't spend our lives. I'm just going to work harder. I'm just going to work longer. And then one day, someday, of course, that one day, someday never comes. They will reach the point where I am worthy and deserving of it. And it's very pervasive. Like if you went on to social media today and said, I'm going on vacation, what is something that's like so common that people will say is like, good for you, Erica, you deserve it. It's like, well, yeah, of course I deserve it. Why would you even say that? Like we always deserve it. No, you have to work hard to deserve your vacation. What? Absolutely not. So I love working hard, but there is a different energy and a big difference. But people say, oh, that's not a big difference. It's a huge difference between working hard from a place of fear and lack, scarcity, and not deserving in an attempt to be enough, be worthy. Look at me, look at me, look at me, struggle, sacrifice to be enough, versus working hard because you say, I'm here for a reason and I want to do my best work and I want to push myself to put the best stuff out there that I've ever put out there, to see what I'm capable of. That is a big difference. And I've been in both. And I'll tell you, it's the latter where you actually do put out your best stuff and end up helping people, changing people's lives.
That's what I wanted to emphasize, that what you were saying about that, because I feel like for so many, and for so many that initially struggle like that to find kind of their identity, and there's that fear holding them back of all those things and the beliefs that can come from childhood, thus our childhood ego, which is always a fun conversation to have. I love talking about that, where we can start to recognize what maybe we grew up with as a child. And I know so many of my audience are moms, not all of them, but a lot of them. And so there's this back and forth. I mean, I'm a mom of 3 and I've been running my own business since my kids were little. And I felt as I had another child, I got busier and busier, right? And did I love it? Not necessarily, but it was this passion that I've always had. And I know so many others do, to like make an impact. That's why I'm still here doing what I'm doing. And I've pushed through those periods of times where, you know, like you talked about, where like you have those moments. And then when you look at the bigger picture of like, well, and for anyone listening, like, you know, if you're gravitating towards this, like, what is it you want to make an impact? What is it you feel you can make a huge change in other people's lives with? And knowing that can be like the motivator and the push to work on the fear and these things that are coming up and standing in your way. And like I talk about all the time, and it's like just the awareness, just understanding that there's even the awareness, because in the beginning, if you're not even aware of it, you're just spinning in circles.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, we work with a lot of moms that are starting and growing online businesses. And one of the things I noticed that I absolutely love is that they've figured it out. They have figured out how to master the discipline of time management. And it kind of goes full circle to what we've just been talking about, because you may just have that hour in a day, 2 hours in a day during nap time, right? To get what you need to get done that day. So you don't get to waste your time in all this silly nonsense of the 14-hour days to prove that you're worthy and deserving. And one of the big tenets that we teach and really press upon our students, and a lot of things I do is I'm very contrarian, right? So I'm like kind of in your face. I'm controversial and stuff. I like to ruffle feathers and stuff because I challenge the way people think about things. That's what I do. I want you to think differently about it. You know, like late Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And stepping into a role, being an entrepreneur and a business owner, takes a very different way of looking at things than you have your whole life. When you went to school, you were a student. But now it's asking you in this business to be a teacher. A lot of us learned how to be a great employee. And now we're asked to be an entrepreneur. That's the opposite. Employees follow the rules. Entrepreneurs break them. I mean, it couldn't be more opposite than that. You've spent most of your life being a consumer, and now you're a producer. It's completely different. Completely different. And so one of the first tenets that I push on people is, if you're going to start a business, not like a little hobby, okay? Like if you want to do a hobby, that's great. But a lot of people are doing that. Like conditional commitment, conditional success, which is like, yeah, I kind of just dabble and do this little thing on the side. And if it takes off, if it's successful, then I'll go all in. That doesn't work. 1 out of 1,000, maybe you stumble upon it accidentally. But for me, step one is always, it's the unconditional commitment, the decision, decide, side, Latin root, is to kill off, homicide, genocide, right? To decide is to cut off all other options. I am deciding that this is what I'm going to do. And the first thing I tell my students is that if you're going in and you're doing this for realsies, you can't do this alone. You can't do this alone. You can't build a successful business alone. Now that kind of freaks people out, stresses people out. What? No, I can't. And they say, well, why would you want to? See, when we're in a job working for somebody else, you're in one seat, you're in one role. Maybe you're, behind the counter. That's a role. Maybe you're working in a restaurant as a chef, as a cook. That's a role. But when you say, I want to start a business, there is not one role. There's several roles. And what I share is a very simple thing, which is the results you get in your business, results like sales, money, clients, testimonials. The results that your business get and that you get is determined by the role that you're filling. So the moment you say, I want a business, you created something that has 5, 10, 15 different roles. And then we put ourselves in all of those and we wonder why we're so busy and overwhelmed. And so why not begin to let go, outsource, delegate, and stop doing the things that you shouldn't be doing, so you can focus on the things that you do. And I see a lot of the young mom business owners are so good at doing that. They say, I have 2 hours today. I can't be in my support inbox. I can't be twiddling around on the Instagrams. I can't be working on my logo and my About Me page and all these little low value activities that keep most people stuck in the illusion of busyness. Like, oh, I got so much done today. I cleaned out my inbox. I worked on my bio and I set up my Instagram account. And it's like, yeah, that feels productive. But what results did that produce? And so what we say is that there are 5% activities that are responsible for 95% of the results that you want. They drive those results. And as long as you're avoiding those, you're not going to get very far. Okay. So most people are sitting there doing the things that are safe and comfortable. And that's the asterisk at the end of my little 5%. It's 5% with a little asterisk. The asterisk is warning. Each of these 5% activities are outside your comfort zone, which means there's going to be a big part of you that doesn't want to do them. And as long as you're not doing them, the business isn't growing. So it's a very magical thing when you have a really passionate, committed mom that's gets real with her situation and says, look, I got 2 hours. I can either spend those 2 hours diddling around on Instagram, not being productive, or I can take all these things, outsource them, let them go, delegate them, and you can get outsourcers and virtual assistants and people all over the world very inexpensively. And then I can get serious and do the things that, scare me a little bit, a little uncomfortable, but will actually drive the business. And we see that happen all the time. It's Parkinson's law. Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not actually.
Parkinson's law is this interesting phenomenon that you give someone a container at a time, 1 hour or 1 day, and they will fill that container of time with the activity required of them.
I've heard
and
that.
So the example,
it was called.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a real phenomenon. So you just, why am I saying all this? Because if you're sitting here on the precipice of a decision of do I want to take this business seriously? Do I want to start this business? Do I want to grow this business? Do I want to put more into this business? What might be at the forefront of that as a barrier, or rather a belief, is I don't have a lot of time. And what I'm trying to offer is, what if that wasn't a barrier preventing you from growing the business, but actually your biggest opportunity? Because you do have time. It's just not as much as maybe someone else. But what we see time and time again is those that I have that hour a day, I have that 2 hours, I've got 3 hours a day, is that people that have those constrained bits of time tend to utilize that time more effectively than people that have all day. What if that was your greatest opportunity? And that, my friends, is an example of how change always has to happen from the inside out. That when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change this, I only have a 2 hour window of time in a day, which means I can't build a business, to wait a second. This 2 hours means I get to be more effective, disciplined, and focused, and only work on the most important things and outsource the rest. This is an opportunity. You change that and everything changes. How you see business determines what's possible. How you see yourself in business determines what's possible. And that is all the Be Do have.
I love it, James. Thank you for all your stories and your words of wisdom, which I feel like barely even got started today. So you're amazing. I've learned and continue to learn so much for you. And I loved, BBD was amazing. And I was like, again, where were you when I started? Come on, James.
Oh, yeah.
I've learned from so many people over the years, and I've learned amazing things from so many people. But there's something that you do, which, I mean, the biggest piece, and it's very obvious as I got into learning more from you, is that you are really good at getting people to reflect upon themselves, like we talked about today. So just wanted to reiterate that so much. And it's such a, we are a reflection, or our business is a reflection of ourselves, and working on all of that. So I appreciate you. I appreciate getting to chat with you today and having you share so much with everybody. For those that don't listen to your podcast, will you just tell everybody about your amazing podcast, which I love and is one of my top podcasts that I listen to for sure. So
yeah. So thank you. I appreciate that, Erica. I started the podcast. Okay, so here's the whole story. By 2013, I'd built $1 million business around teaching YouTube. I'm a teacher. I love teaching, right? I love teaching. And I think that's important if you want to start the type of business and you love to teach. And that, I think that's got to be in your blood. I love helping people, right? So I knew video because I went to film school. I've had a video camera in my hand since I was 11, making home videos. Went to film school for it. I thought I was going to go the Hollywood route. And I'm too stubborn. I'm unemployable. So, so that's not what I did. I started my own business, and I built this thing to $1 million teaching YouTube. And a lot of my message was on YouTube. Video help you grow your business with video. Here's how video is going to help. And I looked at the growth that I had, and I had that introspection, and I was observing what was causing my success, because for most of us, success is a crappy teacher. So you got to look a little deeper and say, what is causing this? Something's working. And if I'm being completely honest, video had nothing to do with it. So here I am saying video, video, video from the rooftops. Gotta have video. And I was kind of making it like that was my thing that made me successful. But I had spent all those years not being successful. So what was it? And it goes back to a lot of the Be Do Have. It was a lot of the internal work that was happening under the surface of the iceberg. But you looked around, and everyone who's growing these online businesses and this and this and this, they're just talking about these 3D tangible things that you need to do. You need to have video. You need to be on Instagram. You need to do Facebook Lives. You need to do webinars. You need to do this. But a lot of people are doing those things and they have no results. So many podcasts that don't go listen to. So many Instagram accounts that no one follows. So many YouTube channels that people don't subscribe to. So many groups that are ghost towns. And I was noticing all that growth, growing by leaps and bounds, and it had nothing to do with video. So I just decided one day, and it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my business, I'm going to start a podcast. And it's called the Mind Your Business Podcast, and it had nothing to do with video. And I started sharing episodes about what was going on within me that was changing. Growth from the inside out. Stories I was letting go, beliefs that I had been holding on to, different perspectives that I was holding that was causing my shift in growth. And now here we are 460 something episodes later, still talking about that. And that's where I'm going to always invite people to go. It's really like how to unleash higher levels of performance as you step into a role of being an entrepreneur. What we call that is the digital CEO. The digital CEO is you stepping into your potential and your greatness, performing at highest levels possible to be the person that your business needs you to be so that you can reach more people, make a bigger impact, and make the money that you want. And we talk about so many things on there. Oh my goodness. A lot of different things. And we're probably going to do another 460 episodes. I don't know, because I got a lot more I want to talk about. So that's a great place for people to find me if they want to learn more and go down the rabbit hole with me.
I love it. It's a good rabbit hole to go in, for sure. You think it? I mean, you're amazing at getting us to think outside the box. So, which I love, outside the box thing. So I love that. I love that analogy. So, thank you so much, James.
Absolutely.
This has been so good. So I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Erica. Appreciate you having me on.